Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, I have something extra, extra, extra special for you. Tonight, our guest is the great Lauren Drew, Director of Congressional Relations for the National Kidney Foundation, a kidney donor and a gifted kidney advocate that teaches all of us that they send out from the NKF. Lauren is a team oriented, mission focused individual who uses her superior organizational and analytical skills to create and implement successful government relations and advocacy initiatives for all kidney patients. I didn't realize this before, but Lauren is a Villanova University School of Law graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree from George Washington University, where she was a presidential scholar. She previously worked as a senior manager for the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, where she worked in state and national advocacy. She has also served as a political compliance attorney. Did you know that Lauren is also an indirect kidney donor? We love her for that. This time of year is a great time of the year to talk to our friend Lauren on the broadcast because the National Kidney Foundation is holding its 11th annual Kidney Patient Summit, organized and led by the National Kidney Foundation at the Capitol Hilton, February 26th and 27th. Some of us are showing up on the 25th. And the Voices for Kidney Health Advocates will educate members of Congress and their staff about the importance of protecting living organ donors, increasing funds for federal kidney disease. You know, we always got to ask for money for federal kidney disease awareness, education, and research programs, increasing access to home dialysis, and supporting a pro-kidney health policy agenda. And Lauren heads up that effort. So we're very, very proud to have her. Tonight, we want to talk to Lauren about some of the initiatives from the NKF and others that we've kind of adopted that may be discussed this year with our members of Congress and will be of interest to the kidney community. Some of those initiatives include, of course, we're going to be asking for funding, the Living Donor Protection Act, the Honor Our Living Donors Hold Act, the Living Organ Donor Tax Credit Act, the Medical Nutrition Therapy Act, Kidney Equity for All, a very big initiative with the NKF, the Improving Access to Home Dialysis Act. So a lot of important legislation we're going to be talking about tonight. So please give a warm, warm welcome to our great friend, Miss Lauren Drew, who is with us tonight. Lauren, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good, Uncle Jim. Thank you so much for having me.
Did I state everything? Boy, I'm having trouble with my other computer here. Did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
Pretty much. I would just say that the policy agenda at NKF is really built by the patients. So I'm happy to be the one who takes the policy agenda to Capitol Hill, but we have a whole team of people who work on policy, who work on regulations, who work on grassroots outreach, and then of course it all comes from the patients. So it's definitely not just me.
Well, that's great. That's great. We know that. We know that. Shout out to people like Sharon and the people that are in charge of social media and all the folks that try to keep your Uncle Jim from going off the rails, like my friend Curtis Warfield.
Oh,
So
Curtis. Yeah. There's such a great team of both staff and volunteers.
please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your educational background, and your employment history.
For sure. So I am a Jersey girl, born and raised, Morris County. What? So everyone, when I talk to the advocates, always I can't say I have a favorite state, but I do have a special place in my heart for everybody from New Jersey. And then I came down here, went to school, undergrad at the George Washington University, and I always like to say, my undergraduate was actually international affairs, which is just political science with an accent. So it's very related to what I do now. Yeah, went to law school outside of of Philadelphia at Villanova, and I will say their basketball team was fabulous. That was really fun. Had a great time watching the Villanova Wildcats. One of the years I was there, they won. That was wild. And then, I actually didn't go right into advocacy. When I graduated law school, I did practice law for a hot second and decided, you know what, this is not my thing, kind of being a gun for hire and just taking cases. That wasn't really my bag. So I came back to Washington and really found my place in the patient advocacy community, starting out with the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, which is actually where I met my boss, Sharon, who is now the head of our government relations department at NKF. She was also my first boss at NHPCO. So I guess I have chosen my fate by continuing coming over to NKF. But since then, I came to NKF in April of 2020, which was an interesting time to start a new job. But it did mean I got to spend a lot of virtual time with the advocates. Our first couple of patient summits were all virtual. And, while it has its downsides, it allows you to connect with people from all over the country. And especially, for our patients who might be mobility impaired, you have a lot of reasons why traveling can be difficult. The ability that we have to use technology to connect is just amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. Please tell us how you came to work as the Director of Congressional Relations for the National Kidney Foundation. When did you start, and what are your duties and responsibilities?
So I did come right into this role in April of 2020, and really what I do as the Director of Congressional Relations is like I'm the boots on the ground. I go up to the House of Representatives and I knock on doors and I take meetings with staffers. I try to coordinate, obviously, with all the advocates in the district. So, sometimes you guys will get an email from me being like, "Hey, I just met with Congressman Smith. I know you live in that district. Can you send him a follow-up email?" And that's really my job, is to communicate the policies to members of Congress and then also make sure those members of Congress are connecting with their constituents back home.
Okay. I understand that you have donated a kidney to an anonymous recipient. What caused you to make this decision?
So I always have to add it here. Sharon always likes to say, this is not a job requirement of NKF. You do not have to donate a kidney in order to be employed by NKF. But it is funny how many of us actually have. So the first time I really thought about it, and I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold. I watched my coworker do it. So some of you may know Miriam Godwin used to work at the National Kidney Foundation, and she donated her kidney in like 2001, I want to say. So I kind of watched her go through that, and we're friends and we still hang out. So shout out Miriam if you're out there. And so I got to see the process of it up close and like what her evaluation was like, what her recovery was like, kind of that whole process. And then, when you work in policy, it's like too much. You know so much about the barriers people face to transplant, how long they sit on the wait list, like just the amazing impact you can make. When you work in policy, you don't really get to see tangible impacts to your work every day. Like I might be fighting with Congress about a bill for years before it gets passed, but you can donate a kidney and save someone's life today. So, after seeing the process, thinking it through, learning about it, it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Okay. When and where did this take place?
I'm based in Washington, D.C., so I went through Georgetown MedStar, and they were wonderful. Dr. Verbisi, if you're out there, she did a great job. And that whole transplant team was absolutely wonderful. Really specific about this is your choice. You can walk away at any time, like literally up until the point where I was going under. They were like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yes, let's go." But they did a very good job of just making you feel so comfortable with your decision and cared for. I mean, I've been in the hospital for other things, right? Like I had my appendix out and things like that. I have never been treated as well as when I was a living donor. Oh my gosh. I think I was in like the fancy suite. I got like nice food. It was quiet. I was like, wow, this is not bad, honestly.
Right. And what was the date?
Oh, sorry, it was just this last Memorial Day. So I'll be on 1 year in at the end of May.
All right. And did you go through pre-donation testing?
Yeah, so I did the full day workup. So there was a day, I think it was in April, maybe late March. I spent the whole day up there at Georgetown MedStar and tested all the things. Anything that comes out, anything that goes in, scanned all the bits. So that, was also kind of nice to know that I'm healthy enough to be a donor. Like that's also a little nice peace of mind that you get. And you're like, okay, nothing too wrong. They didn't find anything in there. So
Okay. I understand that you do not know who received your gift, but you know where it went. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I understand from the people at MedStar that it went up to Boston. I think it went to Brigham and Women's, but I have not heard from the recipient. I don't have any contact with them. I'd be happy to have contact. So if you know anybody who got transplanted in Boston last Memorial Day, might have my kidney, which is now their kidney. So I hope I just kind of send, positive thoughts out to the universe to them and hope that they're doing well out there and that they're doing so well that they don't even, think about it anymore.
So, yeah, if you got a transplant last year at that hospital in Boston on Memorial Day, that's memorable. You can get in touch with your Uncle Jim. You can get in touch with Miss Lauren. I'll make sure she gets the message. But it would be great to be able to say hello and congratulations, and keep track of how you're doing. So, if you're a recipient at that time and place, don't be afraid to drop us an email. And your Uncle Jim's only got 100 groups on Facebook. Well, 101. I just started a new one today. So contact one of us. We're more than happy to talk to you, and I'll make sure Lauren gets the message. Uncle Jim's very good at passing along messages. One other thing, if you want to drill down a little bit on Lauren and get some more information than the things we're talking about here tonight, if you go to my original broadcast notification on my Facebook page and you go to the comments, all my research, all the links to my research are in that broadcast, including the podcast that Kent Bressler did with her from Kidney Solutions way back when in November. So, go ahead and check us out. That's what we're there for. Lauren, I understand that you were previously a manager for the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. Can you talk to us about how that organization works, or other organizations like that work with kidney patients? What is palliative care and what do they do? Can you still take dialysis while you're on palliative care?
Yeah, so that's a big question. So let me step back and say, so NHPCO, National Hospice and Palliative Care. Some people do confuse hospice and palliative care. So hospice is when people have kind of determined that they are done with doing curative treatment. So that means you'll get pain relief, comfort care, but you are expected to pass away maybe within the next 6 months to a year. And palliative care is actually something people can recover from. So palliative care is something that's kind of used as a supportive service. It might lead into hospice care, but it also might lead to recovery. So it's the same kind of supportive services. It might be a nurse coming to your home to help with certain activities of daily living. It might be someone assisting with your meals. It might be, in home, like occupational or physical therapy, and just making sure that your healing process is supported in a way that you're not suffering through this. And it could be for someone who had a car accident. It could be for a cancer patient while they're undergoing their chemotherapy. And the big point about both of those is that it's something that has to be planned for. Our healthcare system, for better or worse, is always based upon treat, 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 all the drugs, all the tests, very medical science. They want to cure. Doctors want to cure. That is what they're trained to do, right? But as a patient, you really are in the driver's seat, and you're the one who can decide, you know what? I want to be home. I don't want to be in a hospital. I don't want to be in a facility. I want to be home with my cats, with my kids, in my garden, whatever makes you happy. And especially if you're facing something like the end of life, you should be empowered to make that decision. And so having the ability to do advanced care planning and know, all right, this is my situation, this is what I'm facing, but these are my goals and values. I really want to be at my daughter's wedding, but after that, like, I'm good. I don't want to keep going to the hospital. I don't want to keep doing all of these tests or all of this medication that doesn't really make me feel that great. And being able to know and understand your disease and your expected disease progression so that you can have these kinds of conversations. And one of the places we kind of see this interact sometimes with kidney patients is sometimes people are not told that your kidney failure is irreversible. That this is something it's not, there's no magic elixir on the internet that is going to fix your kidneys. And, I'm sure you all see those ads that say, this one thing, bro. And making sure that patients can process that information in a very comfortable and culturally competent environment so that they do understand, like, this is what I'm facing. This is the life that is ahead of me, and I have options. It's not just, okay, you got to do this. You have to do in-center hemodialysis this way. Maybe you can do home dialysis. Maybe you decide you don't want to. You want to do palliative care. And it's just making sure that the patient has the information and is supported in that choice, and then is supported in talking to their family. And that's a big part, actually, of hospice and palliative care, is involving the caregivers, involving the family and the care partners, so that everybody involved feels like they're making an educated and empowered decision that's about quality of life as opposed to quantity of life, if that makes sense.
Okay, shout out to our friend Lisa G, who's checked in and saying hello, Miss Lauren.
Hi.
We did have a question from the audience. It only tells me Facebook user, so I don't know who this is. The question is this. Has the NKF addressed the issue of CMS / Medicare stopping coverage for post-transplant blood test monitoring, which detects early rejection?
So I am aware of that. Honestly, that's not a legislative thing. That I do Congress. That is a regulatory issue, but I do know that is something that is on our radar, and we have been involved in it. But unfortunately, I can't go too deep into that because that's not a Congress thing.
Okay, and I can tell you I've seen posts on the NKF Facebook page and on the NKF Twitter account about this same exact issue. So if you check that out, I think you'll find your answer. They do have a position, and it's very, very supportive of kidney patients. So
Yep.
Way to go, guys. Let's talk about the 11th annual NKF patient summit in general for a moment. Can you tell us generally what goes on at the patient summit?
Yeah, it is. I mean, by far, at least from the staff perspective, literally the best 2 days of the year. So we're bringing this year 170 patients. It's the largest one we've ever had, from across the country to Washington, D.C. And we have a whole day of training on policy, what's going on in the kidney space, what are the top legislative priorities. We don't get into regulatory stuff quite as much there, but what are the things that we can ask Congress to help us with? And then how do you have those conversations? How do you take a congressional meeting? How do you follow up? How do you build rapport and a relationship with your member of Congress so that you can be a resource to them and that you can be a trusted advocate? So when they have questions about kidney disease or kidney policy, you're the one that they think of. So we spend an entire day, advocates get to hang out with each other, but they also spend a whole day in training. And then they spend some time with their state teams to get ready for meetings the next day. And so then the second day of the summit is Congress, all Congress. You're in the House, you're in the Senate, you're walking back and forth, you're taking multiple meetings, you're taking pictures. And it's a tiring day, not gonna lie. You will absolutely meet your 10,000 steps goal. But I know people say that it's some of the most fun and most inspiring work that they've done. And I know for the staff, like, we have a blast. We really, really love getting the patients all riled up and then letting them loose on Congress, because there's no way we can make our policy changes without the patient advocates. They're the ones that really are the tip of the spear.
Can you talk a little bit about the importance of sharing your kidney story?
Yeah, I mean that is key, right? Because so I'm a lobbyist. I can go up to Congress and be like, here are the statistics, here's the letter, please do the thing. I can't tell 170 different kidney stories. Now I can tell mine, but it's not the same thing as, you know, staffers are usually pretty young. They might be like 27, so their life experience is not always as robust as maybe some people think it is. So having them come face to face with someone who's like, oh yeah, I live down the street from the congressman, I'm from the same town, our kids go to the same school, making those personal connections, but then hearing, and I have to go to dialysis 3 times a week, and I couldn't keep my job, and it's actually really hard for me to get there and back, and and making the connection between, oh, this is like somebody I would see around town, but they're struggling with this issue, really just makes policy, which can be difficult to understand, and there's acronyms and there's complications, but it takes that and it makes it personal. And that's what they remember. Even if they don't necessarily do the very specific policy thing we're asking them to do, they will remember, man, there are people in my community that like need me to work on this. They need me to focus on kidney disease. They need me to focus on early detection. They need me to improve the quality of life of patients on dialysis. They need me to make transplants easier to get. And the more they hear those stories and the more they connect with people from their district, it just makes that issue more and more important and makes it more and more likely that we can pass good policies to help patients.
I remember Andrew did a study, Andrew Fullerton, when he was with the NKF, and he said that staffers will remember almost 100% of your story. Your actual member of Congress might remember close to 80% of your story. So your story is very important. I have heard that the organization of advocates is called CAC, the Kidney Advocacy Committee,
Mhm.
and the Voices for Kidney Health. Your Uncle Jim is old and sick, so what is the proper term these days?
Voices for Kidney Health is our overarching, anyone can join and be a voice for kidney health. If you've taken action on our action alerts, if you've retweeted, if you've, in any way shared or engaged with our advocacy content, great. You're a part of Voices for Kidney Health. You're sharing your voice. Now, if you want to get even further involved, you can apply to be a member of the Kidney Advocacy Committee, and that's a little bit more, right? That's we have regular meetings. You're going to get some more insider information. You might be called upon a little bit more often to make some direct contacts with your members of Congress, and then obviously you get up to the CAC leaders level where you are, sir, and those are the advocates who have been doing this for a while. They train other advocates. They have close relationships with their members of Congress. They're the people we turn to, when we need some fast action on something. So we have levels of engagement, and depending on what someone is comfortable doing, we will find a spot for them.
Okay, we've talked a little bit about the role of a volunteer lay kidney advocate in the NKF. Is the NKF currently looking for advocates?
Always. So we are always looking for advocates. So if you're interested, I would say the number one thing to do first, you go to our website. You can take action on any of our open action alerts. An action alert is just our way of making it really easy for you to send a message to Congress about a kidney related issue. So usually it's about a bill that is good for kidney patients, and it's kind of a pre-written message that's just like, hey, I'm a kidney patient advocate, please support this bill. It's pre-written for you. It gives you all the information so you're comfortable and you understand what you're doing. And then, maybe you do that a couple times, you feel it out. There's an application on there to join the Kidney Advocacy Committee. And it's not like you click on that and then you signed your life away forever and oh my God, what did I sign up for? There's an interview process. We'll walk you through it. It's not scary. And then if something happens in your life and you have to step back, that's fine too. You're not locked in forever. We do hope that you stick around, and certainly have people who have been doing this for quite a long time. But Uncle Jim, you can attest to this. We try to make it easy and flexible. So if you're at all interested, even in just not even sure if you're interested, but want to learn more to see if you're interested, yeah, reach out, give us a call. We also do occasional events called Cocktails, Mocktails, and Congress, and they're open to anybody. You don't have to be a member of the CAC. You don't even have to have ever completed any of our action alerts. You can just be some guy from the internet. And the whole point of that is just to get kidney patients together to talk about policy, what's going on in Congress. Can we demystify some things that might be confusing? And that can be a really great way to just dip your feet in the water and see if this is for you.
All right. Who is eligible to become an advocate for the NKF? And in other words, Lauren, what I'm asking is, do you necessarily have to be a kidney patient? Could you be like a caretaker or a parent or a brother or sister, someone who knows has a friend that they work with or something that has kidney disease? How would you characterize eligibility?
So there's very few rules. Some of the basic rules are you can't be a paid lobbyist for another organization. So there are rules about if you're a professional lobbyist or then maybe you're obviously a professional lobbyist. That's not exactly the target audience here. But if you're just a regular person who just wants to advocate to the member of Congress whose district you live in, you can have, it'd be interesting if you had absolutely no connection, because usually we want people who have some connection. But it can be very attenuated. Before I became a living donor, my only connection to kidney disease was that I have an uncle on dialysis. I'm not his caretaker. I'm not living with him. I'm not involved in his care on a daily basis. But I know what he goes through. And that's enough to be I want to advocate for this person who can't advocate for themselves right now. They've got a lot going on. We have a lot of parents. We have a lot of children. We actually have a lot of, not a lot, but we have several kids in high school who are amazing. I think Mr. Patel from Texas and a couple others whose names are escaping me, but when they come up for the Kidney Patient Summit, it is amazing. They really knock it out of the park. But you can have a very attenuated connection as long as you're passionate and honest about, this is what I want to spend my time on. It's for me, it's for my donor who I don't even, or my recipient who I don't even know who's out there, living donors, donor families, really anybody. We do have also physicians and caregivers, people involved in kidney care, nutritionists. So anyone who's passionate about this cause, we will find a way to make you useful.
Great, great. Let's talk specifically about the 11th Annual Kidney Patient Summit at the Capitol Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. on February 26th and 27th of this year. A little bit about the sequencing. I understand there's an educational day and then there's a day on the Hill. What kind of things are planned for the education day this year?
Yeah, so we're doing a couple different things. So in the first part of the first day, we are going to have a couple deep dive issue sessions for our veteran advocates. We're going to go a little bit deeper into some rare kidney diseases, how obesity and kidney disease are related and the treatments, and the HRSA modernization, OBTN modernization of the transformation of the transplant system. And those are going to be deeper dives, a little bit more policy focused for our advocates who have been doing this for a minute. And then when everybody else joins, that's when we kind of do the how to have a congressional meeting, how to use social media as an advocate, what are the specific things that we're going to ask Congress about. So we have a rather long list this year, actually, of things that we're going to ask advocates to talk to Congress about. It'll be HRSA OPTN appropriations, supporting the transformation of our transplant system by funding that program. It'll be home dialysis. It'll be Living Donor Protection Act, and also circulating a letter on Capitol Hill in support of a federal kidney disease screening recommendation so that we are catching patients earlier and giving them more options for treatment instead of crashing onto dialysis. So that's a full plate for our advocates this year. And so we will be spending quite a lot of time just walking through all the policies, making sure everybody feels comfortable, and then figuring out, how do I weave that into a meeting? How do I tell my patient story, connect with that staffer, connect that story to one of these policy asks, and have a successful meeting, where the staffer gets the information they need, but is also left with a good emotional understanding of what it's like to be somebody living with kidney disease.
You're talking a lot about the educational programs that go on during the course of the summit. Before the summit arrives, like now during the month of February,
Mm-hmm.
Are there pre-summit education programs from the NKF?
Yes. We have two official, well, actually, we have three this year. So a couple days ago, when I was so sick that I wasn't on screen, we did. I know, I feel so much better now. We did our initial first round training about telling your story, because that's usually kind of the hardest thing for people to do, right? These congressional meetings are not long. They are 15 to 30 minutes maybe. And not only do you need to tell your story and talk about the policies and leave time for questions and make sure everyone gets introduced, and so we want to make sure we spend a little bit of extra time supporting especially new attendees on how to tell their story in a way that it's tight, 3 to 5 minutes, but it's also emotional and it makes a connection. And that takes practice. So we did an hour-long training on just the beginning of that and kind of giving advocates some ideas about how to practice, what to think about, what to expect. And then we're going to do a quick session on social media. And then we're going to do another longer session, like an hour pre-session on policy, because as I mentioned, we got 4 different asks this year. There's a lot going on. We're going to do a deep dive on that. And then on site, we do review all of that because, not everyone can attend the pre-sessions. Repeating things is the best way. As Sharon says, repetition is the key to adult learning. And so much of it is not that people don't inherently know how to do these things, like they do. It's just about making them comfortable. I'm sure you can remember the first time you did it is a little, I'm not sure what to expect, what kind of, and so the more people practice, the more they hear about it. We want them to feel so comfortable when they head into that first meeting Tuesday morning.
Okay. You were talking about the pre-conference workshop, the meeting with your experienced advocates. That takes place the first day, and then there are the main summit tentative agenda type things, and those are the things that you described that where you're educating all of the advocates about what's going on and talking to your members of Congress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to say, as someone that's been with the NKF for over a decade, nobody prepares you like they do. If you're one of those people that you're concerned about being an advocate and whether or not they're going to get you ready, trust me when I tell you that they will get you ready to the point where you will be teaching other people.
Exactly.
You will be in other groups and getting other people ready. So they do a very, very good job of teaching. I just want everybody to know that. Talk to us a little bit about the NKF congressional reception. And this leads me into giving a shout out for Bobby Reed, who let me know she's watching the broadcast. So
Bobby! Yeah, so the reception, I will say, is actually run by the local NKF. So shout out to Michelle Anthony and her team in the National Capital Area region. But we are so proud that they do it alongside our Kidney Patient Summit. Like, it's amazing. So after that full day of training, we have well, basically, we kick everybody out so that the team can get in. They flip the room, and then it comes back as a lovely reception hall with hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and that's where we give out the Salic Award for our Patient Advocate of the Year. We give out our congressional awards, which this year are going to Senator Grassley and Senator Wyden and Congresswoman Carol Miller and Marilyn Strickland. And we invite everybody. So the advocates are there, obviously, for free, included as a part of their Kidney Patient Summit. But then we invite members of Congress, their staff, people from around the DC area, policymakers, people involved in kidney disease policy, our friends at ASN, our friends at AKF, the kidney community comes together not only to honor the congressional award winners and the Salic Award winner, but all of the advocates who are about ready to go up to Congress the next day, and share their stories. So it's a really lovely evening. It's a great way to celebrate after a full day of training.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your legislative agenda and legislative priorities for the 2024 NKF Kidney Summit. First, let's talk about appropriations. What's going on this year with appropriations, Lauren?
Man, if I only had an answer. So we are still finishing the appropriations process from last year. But that's like a me problem. The advocates will be focused on FY25 appropriations and really drilling down on that organ procurement and transplantation network modernization initiative. So in the past, we usually prioritize funding for the CDC and NIH, and that's still there. Like, I'm going to handle that, but we really want the advocates to drive home to Congress the importance of improving our transplant system. Too many patients die on the wait list. Too many patients never make it on the wait list in the first place. And so many organs are donated but discarded and not used, even though there are patients waiting for them. So the fact that like these failures exist is something that NKF has been livid about for years. And finally, there is a federal government initiative to just completely revamp how this system works. You might have heard that the Securing the U.S. OPTN Act passed Congress unanimously. President Biden signed it. Our CEO, Kevin, was in the West Wing when he did. It was amazing. But now Congress needs to fund that program. Congress has a nasty habit of saying, do this thing, but we're not going to give you any money for it. So we need them to send the money to make sure that the HRSA OPTN modernization program is successful. So that's going to be our main focus on appropriations this year.
All right. Let's talk about some of our other initiatives and legislative priorities and some of the things that we're working on with other groups. Please tell us about the Living Donor Protection Act. What does it do to encourage living kidney donation?
Yeah, for sure. So LDPA is a bill that the community's been working on for a very long time. And at the root of it, it's really about removing disincentives, right? So right now, we know from a study that at least a quarter of living organ donors have faced discrimination in life insurance, disability insurance, or long-term care insurance. So that might be, getting it at all. It might be their rates tripling or quadrupling. It might be them being dropped from a policy that they already have. And that's not right. I mean, one, we know that in order to be a living donor, you have to be incredibly healthy. So like there's no risk for the insurers. And two, that's just not a great way to express appreciation for someone, who is really giving of themselves to save a life. So we're really happy that we've actually passed that bill in like 31 states. We're still trying to get it on the federal level. The main part of the federal bill that like really needs to be done at the federal level is codifying that living organ donation entitles someone to protections under the Family Medical Leave Act. That can only be done at the federal level. There is a Department of Labor letter that exists that says, okay, sure, we'll do this, but we want to cross that T, dot that I, and make it crystal clear that this is a protection, because living organ donors need to know that their job is protected when they have to take time off. And I was talking to an office about this, and I was like, you know what? It was kind of easy for someone like me. I can work from home. I took a week off, worked from home for a couple weeks. It was fine. But like, what if you're a teacher or a waitress or a construction worker or someone who has like a very physical job? You need that time. You can't work from home. You have to take that time to recover. And knowing that your job is protected is really, really important. So we're really focusing on at least trying to get that job protection passed, and then also trying to pass the bill on both the federal level and then in all of the states that haven't quite passed it yet either.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about the Improving Access to Home Dialysis Act, the IAHDA. What does the
Trying to
act
find a
do?
better acronym for that, but I haven't had any luck.
What does the act do and why is it important?
Sure. So I'm really hoping that we're going to have this introduced soon. Those of you who have been following us for a while know this is a bill we've been working on for a minute. But the crux of this bill actually really came out of COVID, when we heard from patients who were going to dialysis facilities that, they were uncomfortable on public transit. They weren't sure about the masking situation in their facility, and they just didn't feel safe like being out in public in the middle of the pandemic, and they wanted to dialyze at home. And we were like, okay, well, what can we do to lower the barriers to home dialysis and make sure that patients are told that it's an option, supported in that choice, and just given the opportunity to succeed? Because we know that patients who do home dialysis tend to have better outcomes. They tend to have less side effects. They tend to remain healthy enough for transplant. But we also know that it's not offered to everyone, and that's not really fair. So this bill is going to do a couple things in that area. The main thing we heard from people about why they maybe weren't doing home dialysis was not that they didn't know about it, but it was that they were scared. They were like, I don't want to stick a giant needle in my arm at home alone with nobody around if something happens. Fair. I wouldn't want to do that either. Now, most people, the plan is for them to have a care partner, but what if their care partner is freaked out by doing that? Like, you're just limiting the universe of people that can benefit from this. So in the bill, it's going to provide for the ability of a professional, either patient care technician, maybe a nurse of some kind, depending on the rules, to go into the home of the patient and help them get comfortable with doing this so they don't feel like they're alone. And the ultimate goal is that with enough support over time, then the patient would become comfortable. They would get used to doing it. They would feel supportive. And the ultimate goal is that they would be doing this independently. But at least for the initial 90 days, they'd have somebody coming in to just serve as that, coach, essentially. Be like, yep, you are doing this right. Give them the confidence and help them bridge that transition from in-center to independent at home.
Okay. Let's talk about the Organ Transplantation, Transparency, Accessibility, and Reform Act, the OTTAR, another acronym, OTTAR. Can you tell us, what does this act do and how does it help underserved and at-risk kidney patients?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of deep dive on this, because this is a bill we're still working on. And we've been working on this for a couple years now, trying to get to the root cause of like, why do some people not even make it to the wait list? And how do we capture that? How do we find the people who are either denied or they're taken off the list and they're not even told that they've been removed from the list? How do we capture and improve for those people? And so this bill has gone through multiple iterations. And I think right now, the first part of the bill is really going to focus on transplant navigators. So making sure that a patient who is interested in transplant, one, is able to seamlessly interface with a transplant center. So there's no complicated referral. There's no, you have to do it on your own. There's no hoops to jump through. We want to find a very streamlined process for a patient who just be like, yes, I would like to be connected to a transplant center, and have that happen easily and seamlessly. And then when that happens, getting them connected with a navigator, because navigating the transplant process is very complicated. There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through, a lot of tests you got to do. And when you're already not feeling great because you've been on dialysis, that's a lot for someone to manage. So we want to have a program that can help that patient, find funding. Do they need dental work? Do they need transportation? Do they need child or elder care to help them get to transplant appointments? Like, what are the barriers that are preventing that patient from either becoming eligible, staying eligible? And can this navigator just help them address some of those issues and be a support system, be their point of contact, be the place they can turn to, be the person who can handle their insurance questions, and just take all those burdens off of the patient? So working on trying to create a program like that. And then also trying to improve the education of people in the transplant workforce. So making sure everyone in the transplant workforce is educated on, like, what are these patients going through? What barriers are they facing? How can we address them? And just making sure, that it's seamless, that patients don't get lost, that, files don't get lost, tests don't get lost, because we know that happens all the time. So trying to plug some of those holes in the system. And we'll see. It's been a process trying to get this bill done. Anyone who knows how long it takes to get bills written, the number of edits and revisions and comments we've gone through. But I'm really hoping we'll have something ready for prime time. Hopefully this Congress.
Awesome. Awesome. Shout out to our friend Jonathan Trailer, who's listening to the broadcast. And John's already sharing. So I love that. Way to go, baby.
Awesome.
Share that broadcast. All right. Let's talk about some other initiatives that I've read about from the NKF and others. The Honor Our Living Donors Act, the HOLD Act. What is that all about, Lauren?
That's from our friends over at the Kidney Transplant Collaborative and Waitlist Zero. So we're very happy to support them in this initiative. And that bill actually addresses this little quirk in NELDAC that limits eligibility to NELDAC based upon the recipient of the organ's income, which doesn't really make sense when NELDAC is there to assist the donor. So the HOLD Act is looking to just change some of those rules at NELDAC to make sure more living donors can be eligible for reimbursement through NELDAC.
Okay, and
which is the
when she's
National
talking
Living Donor
about
Assistance Center.
when she's
Sorry.
talking about NOVAC, she's referring to the National Living Donor Assistance Center. Just so
Which, if you don't know
everybody
about
knows.
the National Living Donor Assistance Center, I highly recommend that you look into that, especially if you are someone who is looking for a living donor.
Okay, but talk to us about the Living Organ Donor Tax Credit Act.
Yes. This is actually, I believe, from Congressman Joe Wilson, and he's worked on this for many years. So my understanding is that his goal for this bill is to offer up a tax credit for anything that any donation related uh, donation related debt that a patient did not have reimbursed from NELDAC, and letting them claim that as a tax credit. So what's really important here, and like the line that we need to draw, is it's really important to make sure that living donors do not have to spend money to be a living donor. And, for some people, they have to travel really far to get to a transplant center and travel really far to like do the tests. I was really lucky. I'm, 20 minutes from Georgetown. Not hard for me at all. Definitely not the case for other people. So we want to make sure that living donors remain whole. What we don't want to do is anything that gets into paying for organs, paying donors, incentivizing donation. Like that gets ethically very, very complicated and actually violates several international treaties and violates the National Organ Transplantation Act. But this bill works because it only allows for reimbursement for these related charges and debts that people did not have reimbursed by NELDAC.
Things like traveling, overnight
traveling,
stays,
lost
lost
wages.
wages.
Yes, which like most people will have reimbursed from NELDAC, but as I said before, there are limitations on who's eligible for NELDAC. So this bill is kind of there trying to catch that group that maybe wasn't eligible for NELDAC but still had outstanding costs.
Okay, let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart because I've had the medical nutrition therapists from the NKF on my broadcast, the Medical Nutrition Therapy Act.
Yes. So this one's really great. And shout out to our friends at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics who are leading this effort. We are really happy to work with them on this. And this basically, right now, kidney patients are eligible for medical nutrition therapy, but we know it works. So the great part about this bill is it's going to expand the number of patients who are eligible for MNT, and it expands the kind of providers who can provide it, because that's part of the issue is access. If you're a patient in a rural area, you might not have a registered dietitian readily available. So can a social worker provide this kind of information? Can other members of the care team provide this information to make sure that more patients have access to it? And that's really the crux of this bill. And this bill actually, I think, it's pretty well supported on the Hill. I've yet to see it included in any packages this year, but I do know it's been highly spoken of and is generally well supported. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. One other initiative I wanted to ask you about, I keep seeing a lot about it in your Twitter feed, the NKF's Twitter feed, is the Kidney Equity for All initiative. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So that's really Morgan Reed's baby, our director of transplant strategy. She is very involved in that. But basically, Kidney Equity for All is taking a hard look at our system and saying, it's pretty obvious. You don't have to look that hard, honestly, to see where the inequity is in our system. Why are most of the patients who need transplants people of color, but most of the patients who receive them are not? Like that doesn't line up. Why are most patients who are on dialysis people of color, and then most patients who are referred for transplant are not? And why are people crashing onto dialysis when they're showing all the signs of kidney disease, but they're not being screened, they're not being sent for early intervention, and they're entirely missing the window where we could do something to preserve their kidney function and their health. And so everything from looking at race modifiers, removing the race modifier from EGFR, removing the race modifier from the kidney disease risk index, from the organ transplants, through looking at geographic determination of kidney disease and seeing different areas that are just not getting the attention, early detection, and screening that they need, and why, and what can we do about that. So it's really designed to shine a light on the inequalities in our healthcare system, whether intentional or unintentional, and what that means for kidney patients, because we know a lot of kidney patients do not get the attention they need until it's too late.
Okay. Last initiative I'm going to ask about is the Kidney Transplants for All initiative. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
And this is directly out of Kidney Equity for All. So the Kidney Transplants for All is really drilling down on the failures in the transplant system. So why are all of these kidneys getting discarded when people are dying on the wait list? Why are yeah, right? Like why are people waiting years and years and years on the wait list and other people don't? And they're in the same state, because we know it's different based on the transplant center and the size of the transplant center. But there are holes in this system. And we're really happy to see that the HRSA OPTN Modernization Initiative has started addressing some of this. But transplants for all is really about how can we take this transplant system, and instead of only the top 1% of ideal candidates getting transplanted, everybody deserves an equal shot at getting transplanted. And that means we need to do a better job of utilizing all kidneys that come in for donation, having care planning conversations with patients about, what kind of kidney are you comfortable accepting? Not pushing patients to take kidneys they don't want, but I was blown away when I heard that the average patient gets multiple kidney offers and doesn't know. And that the doctors just make the decisions for them. And I understand there are plenty of medical reasons why a doctor might turn down a kidney, but we think a patient should be involved in that conversation and should know, hey, this offer came in for you. I declined it for this reason, but let's talk about what kind of reasons I should decline on your behalf and what other reasons maybe you are okay with a kidney from someone who was older than you, a kidney from someone who had been a smoker, a kidney that's, Hep positive. And let's let that patient have the information to make educated decisions about their care. So that's really the root of transplants for all, and again, plugging holes in the transplant system specifically, so that everyone has an equal shot.
Great, great. We're in the home stretch here, kiddo.
Gosh, we're almost out of time.
Do you have any final statements that you would like to make to our audience about anything that's important to you, or maybe something I forgot?
Man, the universe of things. And this is going to be probably a little off topic, but as someone who works in Washington as a lobbyist, and I know a lot of people think lobbyist is a dirty word, we are so lucky to be able to walk into the US House of Representatives and walk into our senator's office and have these meetings and talk about these personal issues that impact us and our families. And I know it's hard. We all have our daily lives that are busy and stressful, and our health, but taking that little moment to be an advocate, whether it's just retweeting something, whether it's just commenting on something, but you'd be surprised. Our members of Congress get a lot of angry messages telling them, you're doing the wrong thing, I don't like you, blah, 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 blah. But for them to get actual messages from constituents that are like, hey, I'm dealing with this issue. I really appreciate if you would pay attention to kidney health policy. I really would appreciate it if you supported, this modernization program. That means a lot. And I know it doesn't sound like it, but that's what makes policy change. It is. It is advocates just taking that 5 minutes, making that phone call, sending that email, and we're so lucky that we have a system that empowers all of us. I know people think, oh, you got to have so much money for politicians to listen to you, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say that that's wrong. That absolutely is a part of our system, not a great part. But we still have a majority of our system that is based on people just standing up and telling their story. And if I could leave you with anything, it would be like, don't be too jaded. Please feel like you have the power to stand up and tell your story. And if we can help you do that, all the better.
All right. Got me all fired up here, Lauren.
I
All
love my
right.
job.
Well, you do it very, very well, and you're a very good teacher. I've learned
Oh,
an awful
thank
lot
you.
from you, and
That's when you have a good student.
I thank you for your efforts. Um, I want to in particular thank Lauren for coming on tonight. She's a little under the weather. She's had a bad cold and lost her voice and all sorts of things going on. But nonetheless, she comes on tonight to make sure that she raises our awareness and educates all of us and does such a tremendous job at the NKF. And I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you spent time with us. And the last hour has been just
Oh,
amazing to hear you answer questions and work with us and try to teach all of us what's going on and about the summit, about being an advocate for the NKF, and about some of the issues that are important to the kidney population. So we thank you so much, Miss Lauren, for taking time to talk to us. I'm
we
going
would
to
not
let
be
you.
anything without the advocates, though. That's what I should leave you all with. Is like NKF. Like I'm just one person. My team is 7 people in government relations. Like it's the advocates, the people that take the time to make those phone calls, send those emails. Like that's what makes the difference. I'm just here to like help organize you to do it, but it's the advocates that make the difference.
Oh, well, thank you. All of us out there that advocate are grateful for your time and your efforts. I'm going to let you go now, Lauren. I know it's been an hour. I know you're not feeling well. I have a couple of small things I have to do to button things up with my audience, but what a great broadcast! Just an awesome broadcast. I hope you'll come back on with us sometime and
Anytime.
we get a chance to talk more about legislation and kidney stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully a day where I'm not sucking down honey tea just to keep my voice going. But yes, would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me and can't wait to see you in DC. You take care of yourself, all right?
I'm doing my best. I got a home nurse. I got a lady coming in doing physical therapy with me. I went to see my kidney doctor today. I'm going to see my heart doctor. I'm making arrangements to see my gastro guy up at Rush and liver guy up at Rush. So um, your Uncle Jim's trying to take care of himself because he really wants to do this. It means a lot to him. I had a father with PKD, Lauren, that I lost, and I've lost 5 members of my family to PKD. The reason I'm an advocate and I do the things that I do is for them. So, and such a great teacher to help me along the way.
You're one of the good ones, Uncle Jim. I hope you feel better. Take it easy. Don't overdo it. Don't push yourself because there will be next year. We're gonna do this every year. And when you feel better, if you want to come into DC special and we'll take you around when you're feeling better, we'll do that too.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. I'm gonna let you go. Have a good night, Lauren.
Good
And
night. Take
all
care.
right. I want to thank our audience, everybody that was watching tonight. Wow, what a terrific broadcast. I might even have to shave for the next one. Who knows? So just a great job tonight by Lauren Drew. Do me a favor, share this broadcast, get it out there, let other people see it. We're really trying to recruit advocates. We want to do the right thing by you guys, all the kidney patients, caretakers, people that are related, people that know people that have kidney disease. And as always, I thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Uh, Take care and keep breathing, as my friend Kent Russell would say.